Hi, this is Randall Schwartz, host of FLOSS Weekly. This week, Jonathan Bennett joins us. We're going to be talking about dashboards and analytics for open source projects. You're not going to want to miss this, so stay tuned.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for FLOSS Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is FLOSS Weekly with Randall Schwartz and Jonathan Bennett. Episode 393, recorded June 21st, 2016. Bitergia. This episode of FLOSS Weekly is brought to you by DigitalOcean, simple and fast cloud hosting built for developers. Deploy an SSD cloud server in 55 seconds. Try it today for free. Visit DigitalOcean.com, and once you sign up, be sure to enter the promo code FLOSS in the billing section to get your $10 credit. And by IT Pro TV. IT Pro TV is an easy, entertaining approach to online IT training. For a free 7-day trial and 30% off the life of your account, go to itpro.tv/floss and use the code FLOSS30. It's time for FLOSS Weekly, the show about free, libre, open source software. I am your host, Randall Schwartz, Merlin at StoneEdge.com, bringing you each week the movers, the shakers, the big projects, little projects, projects you may be using every day, totally unaware of it, projects you may want to go download right after this show because you want to play with it. I keep saying that for almost every project that I want to download after the show, and I never have gotten any time to do all that. Joining me today is actually not one of our regular rotating panel of co-hosts. It's actually a guest who was on many, many months ago, maybe years ago. We'll have to cover that when we bring him on, but let's go ahead and bring him on. Welcome back to the show, Jonathan Bennett.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, and where are you speaking to us from?
I'm in my home office here in Lawton, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, I'll wave behind me, but that would probably throw off the stream, so I'm just going to sit here and very still. I'm currently in Orlando, Florida. I'm in a hotel that only has Wi-Fi. It's not hardline like I usually try to prefer. So there may be a few glitches on the video if you're watching the video. Just ignore those. The important content, of course, is always going to be in the audio, and we were definitely getting good audio for this. Jonathan, when were you on, and what was it for?
I was on talking about FWNOP, and that's a project I work on with Michael Rash and Damian Stewart. It's like next generation port knocking, and that was, I don't remember exactly when it was. It's been a few months back.
It's show number 352, which if I do the math is about 40 weeks ago. So yeah, it's back there. Okay, so you work on FWNOP, but what's your rest of your day job? What else do you do?
The thing that pays the bills is I've started a small IT company. I take care of small businesses, and I use open source software whenever I can. So, I try to convince people to let me put LibreOffice on their machines instead of paying for Microsoft Office. A few times I've done full Linux installs instead of Windows installs, things like that.
Great. So this is also your audition to be a co-host. So, I'll guide you along from behind the scenes as best I can. But if there's a few glitches, it'll all get better in time if there's anything that goes mistake there. Also, just to make it clear, I'm not firing anybody else. It just seems that my pool of co-hosts is getting a little bit more diminished and more diminished. Like Dan Lynch is still out, probably out for another month, but he'll be back, by the way. So I know everybody's been anxious for him to come back and get healthy and all that important things to do that. So I put out a call, what was it, about a week ago? Maybe, for looking for new co-hosts. And so we've got another guy coming up in about 4 weeks that's also auditioning. So anyway, so this is your big trial. But the show's not about you and me. The show is actually about our guests and what they're bringing to the picture. This week, our show is about Bitergia. And we're going to bring Jesus Gonzalez Barona, to represent the project. So that'll be pretty fun. And as far as I can tell, Bitergia is an open source solution to monitor and manage the analytics around a project, especially open source projects. And analytics means like how many bugs are getting fixed, how many bugs are outstanding, what's the average time of bugs being in the system, commits, velocity there, all that sort of stuff. That's what I can take away from in about about 5 minutes of reading the site. So this will also tell Jesus exactly how good his elevator pitch is, because that's where I get my information. I'm like going quickly up and down and in the elevator, and all I can do is have a little bit of time to actually find out what's going on. What's your take on this so far, Jonathan?
I did get a few minutes to look at their website. It looks like an interesting project. It reminds me of when you go to GitHub and you can see some of the analytics GitHub has, just a couple of things there. It's like that on steroids. One of the things they mentioned is you can actually go in and see when one of your main developers has slowed down their commits. You can then reach out to them and say, hey, is something wrong? And potentially take care of problems before they actually become problems. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea. So interested to hear more about it.
Awesome. And also, again, not clear from the website, but the website prominently lists Grimoire Labs. And I think that's the name of the actual software. And then the company, Bitergia, is built around that. But again, I don't know. And so that tells me that might tell Jesus what he has to add to the website, make these things clearer to me. So that'll be great. But whether you're developing an app, a website, or working on a server-based project, you need flexible, reliable, and affordable hosting. DigitalOcean offers Droplets, which are virtual private servers that can be customized and deployed to easily host websites, web apps, production apps, personal projects, virtual desktops, and almost anything else you can think of, with full root access. This helps you to get your project off the ground quickly and makes it easy to scale when you find success. DigitalOcean is used by over 600,000 developers, including me. I first found out about DigitalOcean about a year and a half ago, and I've been running a FreeBSD box in the cloud on SSD. I'll talk more about that in a minute. You can deploy and configure your Droplets via a streamlined control panel or a simple API. You could choose your OS: Ubuntu, CentOS, Debian, Fedora, CoreOS, and FreeBSD. You can select from one of many pre-configured one-clicks like Drupal, Docker, or Node.js to get up and running quickly, or build the exact infrastructure you need with root access to servers running 100% SSDs. They're really quick. The state-of-the-art data centers around the world. It's highly scalable to meet the demands of a rapidly growing application or business. You can also use advanced features like floating IPs for high availability, private networking, and automated deployments via API. It's an extremely active community with a large and detailed set of tutorials on all the ways you can use your Droplet. Want to configure a LAMP server? Set up a virtual desktop or VPN? They've got you covered. All the servers come with a 1 gigabyte per second network interface, and plans start with 1 terabyte a month and increase incrementally. And with team accounts, you'll be able to share your account's resources without sharing login or billing information. Team accounts also allow individuals to have their own two-factor enabled login. It's so easy to get started, you can deploy an SSD cloud server in as little as 55 seconds. DigitalOcean has incredibly affordable and straightforward pricing. Servers start at only $5 a month. There's also hourly pricing available, starting at less than a penny per hour. But we're going to make it so you can get started today and deploy an SSD cloud server for free. Visit DigitalOcean.com and create an account. Once you confirm your email and account information, go to the billing section and enter the promo code FLOSS for a free $10 credit. That's plenty to get started and explore what DigitalOcean can do. That's DigitalOcean.com, and once you sign up, enter the code FLOSS in the billing section to get your $10 credit for free. And we thank DigitalOcean for their sponsorship of Floss Weekly. And now let's bring on our guest. Jesus, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hey, and where are we speaking to you from? Or where are you? Sorry, I got that backwards. Where are you speaking from?
Yeah, I'm right now at home because this is almost 7 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm in Madrid, Spain.
Madrid, Spain. Hey, that's like 8 time zones away from where I normally tape the show, but I'm on the East Coast. So I'm a little closer in time to you than I normally am. So that's cool. So how well did I do? Give us a 30,000-foot view. What is this stuff all about? What problem does it solve?
Yeah, I guess that you presented it very well. So it's basically, we have a company which is Bitergia, and our aim is to try to analyze how software is being developed. We are devoted mainly to free open source software, but in fact, we can analyze any kind of software which is developed in, let's say, the common repositories these days, so GitHub, for instance. And we have a free software, open source software, which is Grimoire Lab. As you said, it's basically the software that you use. We don't have like a community and a company version or something, so we use the same version for everything for our customers and for anyone that wants to come and build their own analytics. And the idea is to do deep analytics on how software is being developed. Basically, we go to the repositories like Git repositories, issue tracking, mailing lists, whatever, which is related to free software and software development in general, extract that information, put into a database, and then mine the database and do analytics on the database so that we can really know what's happening and what people are doing with the software from many points of view. So I like
Okay.
this definition that you said about like GitHub on the steroids with respect to to analytics.
Great, cool. Well, that makes a lot of sense then. So how did this project get started?
Well, I've been in the university, Rey Juan Carlos, for more than 10 years, doing research on software development. And during that period, we were developing some tools, mainly the Metrics Grimoire toolset, which is somehow an antecessor of the current Grimoire Lab staff. And Metrics Grimoire was used by many researchers and other people around the world. But at some point, some companies started to approach us asking for a specific analysis and stuff like, well, that was not research anymore. That was more like, well, commercial needs that they had. And so a couple of people in the research team, they were living at that moment. They were looking for opportunities in the industry, and they decided to start a company. And well, I joined them, and that was like 4 years ago. And well, we started to develop the new generation of the software to make it more stable and to look for customers. And well, that's it.
Okay, and so how many sort of, well, let's see, I'm trying to get a different way to look at this. So is there a lot of community participation? Is there a lot of people that are now using this and contributing to it?
I guess that there is like, I mean, for Metrics tomorrow, we had a community of, I don't know how many people, but probably between 20, maybe 30 people contributing in different ways. Like 5 of them are from the company and the others are from other parts. Like 1 year ago, we started with Grimoire Lab. Grimoire Lab up to now has had very little contributions out from outside the company. And right now we are starting to get some of those and we are promoting and we'd like to make it a community project, not only a company project. But for now we have to push it because we need for our customers. But it is basically to repeat the success of Metrics Grimoire and have more and more people involved. Since the architecture is much more modular, it should be easier for people to become engaged in different kinds of software that they want to include or to analyze or whatever.
It's very interesting. As a small business guy, one of the things that I find interesting is the commercialization aspects of open source, how to do that right. And it sounds to me like the commercialization really came to you guys, and rather than you having to go out and build a plan up and try to make it work, it's more like people came knocking on your door. Is that how that kind of worked?
Well, somehow what happened was, as I said, some companies were coming and asking for things, but at some point we had to decide whether there was a business model or not, because this is open source software. Anyone can go and install it and run it. So at some point we thought that people were willing to run it themselves. But early we realized that most of the people just wanted the service. So they don't want to run the staff daily, they don't want to maintain the software updated, they don't want to go to repositories and have all the trouble of keeping that up to date. And they just wanted somebody else to do that. And that's why we started the company. So basically, this is like the book business model for a free software company, just providing the service that anyone can in fact run themselves, but customers prefer us to run it. It's cheaper, and well, we're supposed to be experts. So we really know what to do, and it's much more effective for most companies for doing that.
That's great. I like that. I like to hear about business models that make sense like that. Don't have to have open core or things like that. I did have another question, and when you're doing analytics, can you give us an idea of kind of specific insights, I suppose, that the software looks for?
Yeah, well, in fact, there are like 2 parts of the software. One part goes to the repositories and basically gets everything that is there. So go to Git repository and gets every meta information about commits. Go to the issues repository, GitHub issues, for instance, or Bexilla or Jira, and extract all the information for tickets. Or go to, I don't know, Gerrit, for instance, or pull request, and retrieve all the information for every single review cycle or anything. and stores that into the database. So that's the first thing, basically getting all the information. Once you have it in the database, we can produce dashboards that produce, let's say, like a view of your project from many different points of view, but we can also go and ask and answer specific questions that you may have. For instance, you may be interested in how long does it take for me to review code, and how different parts of the code are being reviewed, and how the different reviewers are working or are delaying or not the different review cycles. So that's the kind of stuff that we can answer. Or you can look at the structure of your community, and you can ask how many people with 5 years of experience in reviewing I have, and how are they behaving right now, and are they contributing as much as they were, or maybe they are leaving the project somehow. Or from another point of view, we can as well analyze how people are communicating in Slack, for instance, and we can see whether some people just go and write, or some people go and interact with others, or basically think about any kind of process that can be traced in repositories. You can extract that information and then analyze.
Okay, interesting. We do have a question from chat. Emily the Strange wants to know, how well does it work in conjunction with things like Google Analytics?
Well, we have been looking a lot at things like Google Analytics and Twitter Analytics, for instance. And the main trouble with those is that you don't have a clear API so that you can have information and mix it. So up to now, what we are doing in that case, when customers want that information, is basically produce separate dashboards. I mean, we in fact produce a dashboard which may be complementary to the Google Analytics dashboard, for instance. When the services provide a nice API, so for instance, there are some free software analyzers for web traffic and stuff. So in that case, we can integrate that information into the dashboard. Because in the end, it's just a matter of putting the information in the database and again go and ask for it from the dashboard. So it's just a matter of how easy it is to integrate and whether it can be integrated at all. I mean, if the service has a right API so that you can query it and integrate that information.
Okay. So what about other open source projects? Are some of them trying to use this sort of analytics, and do you guys reach out and try to help any of them with it?
Yeah, there are some of them that are customers. So, for instance, yesterday I was in Berlin in the OpenFV Summit, where they are using our software for analyzing the project and knowing about how it is working. But we have been working recently with the Document Foundation, for instance. They are customers too, but in this case, they prefer to handle a part of the software themselves. So we are basically installing it in their machines. And in the next weeks, probably they're going to announce this. And we've been working with Wikimedia Foundation, for instance, for a while. And in fact, they have been fundamental for defining how to analyze code review, because one of the things that Wikimedia Foundation is doing is trying to improve the code review process for them. So we are working with many of them in different from different points of view. In some cases, they are customers. In some others, basically, we help them to install the software for using it themselves.
You may
Sorry,
be
Randall?
muted, Randall.
Well, I don't think we have any audio from Randall at the moment. Randall, are you there?
I am. I'm sorry. I was coughing, and I hit the cough switch and forgot to unhit it, whatever you called that. Okay, so we've been sort of at a high-level view of the project so far. What I'd like to do is get down into some of the details. So what's this written in? Is it? Well, tell me.
Yeah, well, it's written in Python. In fact, Metrics Grimoire was written for Python 2. Now we've moved to Python 3, and everything works with Python 3. We use Elasticsearch now as the database. In Metrics Grimoire, it was MySQL, but for many reasons, we decided to try an NoSQL model. And after looking at different options, we decided to use Elasticsearch because of Kibana, because in the end, we needed to have a dashboard. And Kibana is very well integrated with Elasticsearch. On the other hand, Elasticsearch was enough for most of the things that we really needed. So basically what we do is upload the information to Elasticsearch and then produce a slightly modified Kibana as the front end.
Well,
But
it sounds like there's... Sorry, go ahead.
The machine is basically Python 3. Yeah.
Okay, so I've heard, of course I've had no experience with this, that porting from Python 2 to Python 3 is somewhat tricky. Did you find that true?
Well, in fact, we almost started from scratch because basically what we are trying to conserve is the knowledge about the tools. But we started with a new architecture. So we really didn't have many trouble with porting because we didn't port a lot. So most of the code was completely rewritten from scratch.
Okay. Well, I guess that's one way to solve the porting problem. You just simply start over. That'd be the same thing true also for Perl 5 to Perl 6. Perl 6 is really just a separate language, so there's not going to be a lot of porting going on. There's interoperability, though, so you can run Perl 5 code right alongside Perl 6 code. But I'm thinking of that, of course, because I'm at the Perl conference for this year, the small Perl conference as opposed to the big one. So what skills does someone have to set up an instance of this?
If you want to install it yourself, basically it would be good if you know a bit about Python because you have to install some Python packages, but it's not that complicated. It's basically using PIP for installing different stuff. And then you need to know how to run Elasticsearch in Kibana, but that's also not difficult because it's basically running an executable. If you have tried to install Elasticsearch or Kibana, it's really simple. You just download it, need a Java machine working, of course, but once you have that, it's just a matter of running a program and that's it. Once you have everything set up, the only thing that you need is to learn how to point the backend, which is Perceval, which is the part that goes directly to the repositories to extract the data. And it's just a matter of looking at the command line that you have to use and so on. So I would say that if you have a very few knowledge about Python, you know how to run things on top of Java, and you know how to run the shell, that's all that you need to start working, at least to try to run the thing. So it's not that complicated. Of course, if you know about Docker and so on, you can get everything Dockerized. So you can also get a Docker version, and you can install everything in a couple of containers.
Okay, but obviously there's some configuration after that. I mean, you must be able to select precisely what do they call it, dashboards and stuff that you want. Is that something that I would take a lot of understanding to try to do?
So it depends exactly on what you need to do. So let's consider the simple thing. If you go to the Grimoire Lab site, for instance, there is a use cases repository where you have one use case for GitHub. So basically there you have to run like 4 different commands and you get a Git repository analyzed. In this case, what we do is to provide you with the standard dashboards already ready. In Kibana, you can save a dashboard basically as a JSON file. So what we do is to provide you with the JSON file in a tool that uploads the JSON file to Kibana, which basically means you have the same dashboard that we designed running in Kibana. Kibana connects to Elasticsearch and looks for the data. And the data was put there by Perceval, the backend of Grimoire Lab. So the process is you run Perceval, you get the data, install it in Kibana, that's a single command. Then you go to Kibana, install the dashboard, that's another single command, and then you are run. You only have to connect to Kibana with your browser and start wandering through the data. So it's not that difficult.
Are the displays customizable per user? So if you wanted one set of statistics visible and somebody else wanted a different set, can we do that on a per user basis?
Yeah, basically that's a matter of how Kibana works. In Kibana, it's very easy to write a dashboard, modify it, save it again, so that basically you can have versions derived from our dashboards if you want. The only thing that is not well solved in Kibana with free software is authentication and stuff like that. For that, they have a proprietary product that we are not using because we are committed to provide only free software to our customers. And that previous product that Elastic sells is keeping charge of accounting and permissions and stuff like that. So in our case, what we do is to let the customers directly interact with Kibana and produce as many dashboards as they may want. So the only thing that they want to do, they have a simple graphical user interface in the browser where they can just include new visualizations, move the visualizations in the dashboard, and stuff like that. So it's really simple. The only thing that you really need to do is run like a 10-minute video of how to configure a Kibana dashboard, and then now a bit about the information that we have in the database, which is not that difficult. It's like having indexes, which are like tables in a SQL database, and knowing what's the information in them.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's all sounding really fascinating. I want to talk more about the relationship between the commercial side of things and the open source side of things. But before I do that, I have a very important message. Because a good IT pro is constantly learning and staying up to date with current technology certifications. IT Pro TV's high quality video tutorials will not only keep up your IT skills current, but they will bring you closer to achieving that new IT job you've been working towards. They've got 1,000 hours of content and more than 30 hours of new course content added weekly. You can also stream their courses live and on demand worldwide to your Comcast, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, or PC, plus learn on the go with your mobile device. IT Pro TV is now the first IT video provider with courses for sale through Amazon Video Direct, with 60 video courses available now and more being added in the coming weeks. While subscriptions are still your best value, we're excited to see IT Pro TV's content available for purchase on Amazon. IT Pro TV's course topics include PF Sense, Citrus X Zen Service, A+, AWS, ethical hacking, CompTIA Advanced Security Practitioner, Microsoft Server 2016 MCSE, and more. They recently completed CISA, a globally recognized certification in the field of audit, control, and security of information services with Cybex author Brian O'Hara. June courses include CCNA Security, that's from Cisco, VCP6 for VMware, CEH V9, Accelerated CCENT, Accelerated CCNA Routing and Switching. There are 100 step-by-step virtual machine labs and transcender practice exams. That's a $109 value. One low monthly subscription price, no hassle cancellation policy. If you're currently signed up for an enterprise account with an IT Pro TV competitor and subject to rate increases, IT Pro TV will match your previous year's pricing for that account so that you and your team can learn at an affordable rate. IT Pro TV's clients include Harvard, MIT, UCSD, Stanford, and more. So check out IT Pro TV/FLOSS and upgrade your brain with the most popular IT certifications. Premium subscriptions are normally $57 a month or $570 per year, but we have a special offer. Try it free for 7 days when you sign up with our code FLOSS30 to check out their courses, live streams, and more. You'll also receive 30% off the lifetime of your account. That's less than $40 per month or $399 for the entire year. Just visit itpro.tv/FLOSS and then use the code FLOSS30 and try it free for 7 days, plus save 30% off the life of your account. We thank IT Pro TV for their support of Floss Weekly. Let me get into a couple more questions here. So as we said at the beginning of the show, Bitergia, the company, is providing software and providing services and consulting and things like that. But there's this open source project of the Grimoire Lab. Now, who decides what's on the roadmap for the open source side of it?
So as I said, Grimoire Lab still has very few contributors from outside the company. So I can tell you how we did that with Metrics Grimoire, because the plan is basically following the same thing. So in Metrics Grimoire, everything was started from the university team, and at some point it was maintained by the company. But we have always had, for several of the components, external people basically deciding on that. So the idea was, if somebody starts contributing a lot on a certain module, basically he becomes administrator of the module, and he can decide on the roadmap and everything. And the basic idea is, if you contribute, you decide. And in some cases, to be honest, the company is going to contribute much more than others, because we have customers, we have to go after them, and so on. But depending on the model and on the different piece of software, it's very possible that some external people basically decide what's going to be happening with that one. The only thing that we try is to maintain compatibility, in the sense that all the companies work together. But what exactly a company does, or which are the priorities for implementing staff, basically depends on who wants to implement them. If it is the company, that's fine. If it is some other people, that's fine too. So it depends on the amount of time and the amount of effort that you can put it in.
So it sounds like you've been going along swimmingly, and so there hasn't been any conflict. But I'm still wondering where would push come to shove if there was some disagreement between the Bitergia core people and the external contributors.
It could happen, but you know that in open source software we have this problem with forks. So everybody wants to avoid forks, and that's a very high pressure. So I'm seeing that from the outside in other projects. So the idea is that if somebody really disagrees what with the company is doing, of course they can fork. We as a company would like to avoid that as much as possible because we want to maintain a single community for that. So basically, there need to be an agreement. If we can find the agreement, everybody is going to be happy, and no fork is going to happen. Up to now, we were able of doing that. I don't know in the future. So if somebody comes with very strong opinions on what they will do, okay, probably we have to say at some point, okay, go ahead and do that yourself, and maybe we are going to go back to your fork and maybe reintroduce that stuff in our software, because the software is GPL, so it's easy to you can fork, you can take your code, you can take our code, and so on. But up to now, everything has been discussed openly, and we could reach. I don't know if everybody was happy enough, but at least they were happy enough not to fork, which I guess is good for the project in the end. So the company would like to maintain an open community. If at some point some other actors would can put in a significant amount of effort, we wouldn't mind having something like a common body for discussing all of this and maybe starting up a foundation or something like that. Up to now, it didn't happen just because we didn't have external effort in a reasonable quantity to justify that.
And so, do you require contributor agreements, or does the ownership of the software stay with the original author?
Up to now, if there are significant contributions, we usually ask them to basically release on the GPL, and that's it. So we are not asking people to transfer copyright. If some major contributor would be interested, maybe we could negotiate stuff like that. But up to now, being subject to the GPL has been enough for all of us.
And it's probably GPL v2, right?
I don't remember now. I guess most of the components are version 3. Some
okay.
could be still version 2 or upper, yeah.
Okay,
But I guess
that's good,
most
because
of the
without
new stuff is version. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, great. Now I was just going to say that not having contributor agreements means you're stuck if you want to upgrade the license for a lot of the code. But it sounds like you've already solved that problem, or mostly solved that problem. So that makes sense. And yeah, I just asked. It was GPL. All right, great. My mind's skipping around a little bit. So I think Jonathan's got a couple more questions here.
I did. So let's assume, this might be a reasonable assumption, that I, as a very lazy programmer, don't want to take the time to set this up myself. But I'm also maybe somewhat cheap, or I don't want to pay the money for it right out front. Is there some kind of free demo or free hosted tier?
Yeah, right. You have the Cauldron. The Cauldron is cauldron.io. And it's a very simple proof of concept. We're improving it during the next months. But right now, it's basically a place where you can go and analyze any GitHub owner. I mean, user, organization. It takes the 10 latest active repositories for that owner and analyze them, producing the dashboard. The dashboard includes Git and pull requests and issues. So basically, you have like 3 panels, one for each of these information, and you can have a glimpse of these 10 latest active repositories. We launched this for Oskin, so it's only like 2 months old. And we are planning to improve it because we want to have like a kind of a demo of what's happening, and we're going to improve it in functionality and in capabilities. Right now, you have to ask for a code word for it to work. You can try. It's Oskin 16 if you want. And the only thing that you have to do is to include this code and decide the owner that you want to analyze. I mean, the user or the GitHub organization that you want to analyze. And you get the dashboard. If you go to cauldron.io, you can see many of those that were already analyzed by someone, because all the repositories that are produced are public. So you can see that those dashboards, and you can see, I don't know, Docker, for instance, is one of those that are analyzed. You can look at the list of those that are there and have a look and by yourself. So as I said, this is not exactly the last thing that we have, but it's the technology like 2 months ago. So it's pretty up to date.
Very cool. I will definitely have to take a look at that for a couple of the projects that I am involved in. Do you have an idea of how many users the software has, both just purely the open source, and even if you're willing to tell us how many as a service, just kind of a ballpark figure?
It's difficult to say because basically we mostly deal with big customers, and we really don't know how many users they have. but I can say that we have like 20 big customers, and there are many others that came into the Cauldron. In the Cauldron right now, you have like 100 different owners analyze it. So I guess that we can count them as users, but anyone can come and use the dashboard even without we now in that. And for the software itself being installed and so on, probably there are not that much people right now. Probably that's like tens of people. But we hope to have much more by Christmas, because during this second semester, we are going to try to make the software much more easy to install, to write more documentation, to produce some videos so that people can install it easily and so on. But right now, I would say the community is small in general. And in fact, most of the people using it is because they are using the service of the company.
Okay. Do you have any real good success stories that you could share with us, like a company that you've worked with that you think is just you've really helped them out? Is there something specific?
Yeah, probably the latest one is the same community. Well, it's not a company, but you know that there are many companies sitting in the same board, and they had the trouble with how they were doing code review. You know that Shen is doing code review the way that the Linux kernel does. It's basically the same culture, the same kind of developers, and they are using mailing lists and stuff. They noticed that they had many more messages in mailing lists for code review. And they wondered whether that meant that they were taking more time to review and they were taking too much effort for reviewing. So what we did was go with our tools to the mailing lists and to the Git repositories and basically track the threads related to review to the commits and find out timings. I mean, how long does it take from the moment a developer uploads the first patch set to the mailing list to the moment that enters into the code base in the Git repository, and measure those times and measure how many people was involved in the code review and stuff like that. And we helped them to control what was happening, because they really had some time to merge. I mean, the time between the production of the patch and the merging into the source code, some time to merge that was increasing. But like 6 months ago, they started to control it. And right now it's becoming back to normal. And now they can not only know about that, but track it, because we produced a dashboard that is basically running continuously, and they can look at the metrics there. So this is a very practical example of how, if you are interested in what's happening in your project, first of all, you can learn what's happening. And second, you can put policies into place to fix the thing. And then you can track whether the policies were working or not. You have a blog post about this in our blog, blog.bitergia.com.
All right, that's very impressive. It's very helpful to be able to put some meat on the ideas to understand really what the practical benefits are. I like that. That's a good one. Are there some interesting tidbits coming up on your roadmap?
Sorry, can you repeat? I didn't get the last sentence.
I said, are there some interesting things coming up on your roadmap, like your to-do list?
Yeah, of course. Right now, we're in the process of writing all the backends for Grimoire Lab, and we hope basically to have those after summer. That's going to be like 20 different data sources, from Slack or IRC to Jira or Confluence or to Gerrit or Git. So basically, we have a roadmap which includes having all of those after summer. And after that moment, we're going to start working with Kibana, with the front end, because we want to do some more modifications to Kibana. In parallel to this, as I said, we are going to try to promote as much as possible the free software that we have, so that people can use it by themselves, in addition to being customers or wherever. And probably another interesting thing for people watching this is that we are going to improve the Cauldron. So we have the idea of, at some point, I still cannot commit with one, but at some point we want to improve the Cauldron so that we can really convert it into a kind of a service that you can use probably for free for analyzing the small staff, let's say, so that you don't need to go through all the installation of all the tools and maintenance and all of that.
All right, that's very cool. I will definitely have to go try Cauldron. That sounds really interesting. Do you have a public issue tracker that's out there for where we can take a look?
Yeah, basically we do that in GitHub. So if you look at if you go to the Grimoire Lab website, you can find out links to the repositories, and those are the trackers that we are following. So basically, GitHub issues.
Hey, so I got. Sorry, I stopped on you again, Jonathan. I've got a couple more follow-up questions. So it sounds like you're dog fooding this. It sounds like you're using your own product to track the velocity and the other analytics about your product. Is that true?
That's right. That's right. For Grimoire Lab, we are starting because it is still small and there is just a very short history. But for Metrics Grimoire, if you dig a bit in our repositories, you can find out the dashboard for Metrics Grimoire. We maintain it, we keep it, because it's a very interesting source of information for us. Not only because it's our staff, but it's also because we can see what we can do with our staff for it. So every time we have any kind of trouble with how we are developing ourselves, we can go there and see whether we can answer the question or not. And if not, probably that's a matter for more developments, for including more things in the dashboard. So yeah, definitely.
And does this scale like a website would? Is it about that level, or is there scaling plans for? I don't. Well, my first question probably should be, what kind of performance can I get on a commodity hardware?
So basically, you can do it in any kind of laptop, because in the end, we are not really talking about big data here. So, for instance, everything in Eclipse, the Eclipse community with more than 1 million tickets and so on, everything fits in my laptop. So I can run that, and I can run the dashboard and everything in my laptop, then do queries live on the Elasticsearch database running in my own laptop. So it's not a resource hog. So it's something that you can easily run in any kind of machine. I'm pretty much sure that you can run it in a Raspberry Pi if you want.
Great, cool. Hey, we're almost out of time. Is there any question I didn't ask that you want to make sure our audience is aware of before we let you go?
Yeah, I would like to let everyone know, first of all, that we are welcoming anyone willing to come and use the software and, of course, contributing. And we're especially interested in finding out about new data sources that people could be interested in analyzing, either for doing the backend themselves or for we doing the backend because we find that interesting. So we're very interested in enlarging the community from that point of view, because we know that if you are interested in something specific, it's much more likely that you are going to build it than anything else. And the second thing is, we are right now extending this kind of analysis to companies using the same practices than free software. I mean, those companies using, for instance, GitHub Enterprise. Because basically in those cases, the kind of repositories that we have are exactly the same, so that we can go and analyze those too. So we are basically trying to expand into that market, which is inner sourcing and all of that stuff, which probably is much bigger than open source companies, and probably very interesting too. So if you happen to have a case there, please contact us, because we are very interested in covering that market too.
Awesome. And I have a couple of standard questions I have to ask, or my audience members write me and remind me they forgot to ask those. But the first one, I think I already know the answer. What's your favorite scripting language?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, what's your favorite scripting language?
Oh, it's Python.
Yeah, I was going to say, I already knew that one. I already knew that one.
I have to say that many years ago, I started with Shell, then I moved to Perl. But once I discovered Python, I tried to write everything in Python.
We'll forgive you. It's okay. It's okay. Whatever works for you. That's what I always say about any language you want to choose to do your production work in. And second question is, what's your favorite text editor?
I'm still working with Emacs, I have to say, but I'm slowly moving to Atom. So, but I'm very happy with Emacs, right?
Yeah, well, I'm happy for that answer too. At least I got 50% of that. And yes, I've heard really good things about Atom, and I'm probably going to try to get them. Well, I've been trying to get them on the show for a while, so I really want people to be more aware of this, because the amount of customizability. How about using the right word, Randall? Is just awesome. It's in the Emacs range.
So I like Atom mainly because I know more JavaScript than Lisp. So I can customize Emacs in Lisp a bit, but I'm not really fluent in Lisp. I very much speak JavaScript, so it's much easier for me to customize Atom. But yeah.
That's right. Great. Good. Definitely. Cool. Well, hey, it's been great having you on the show. I know a lot more people are probably going to be looking into this for you and looking into this with you. Just thanks. Thanks for being on the show.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. I was Very happy to participate here. It was a lot of fun for me. Thank you very much.
Very good. That was Jesus Gonzalez Barahona. What did you think, Jonathan?
Oh, it sounds very interesting. Especially the success story he gave us. It really fills in kind of the questions I had about, what's the practical use. But he started talking about how you can track how long it takes to merge things and respond. And boy, that really puts it in perspective how that it really can be useful to track some of these things and the power that these tools that they're putting together have.
Cool. Yeah, that was this is fascinating. This is actually again one of those projects that I should probably notify ZipRecruiter about because they have all sorts of stuff flying through. They've got like 80 or 90 developers now, and so it's hard to really see what's going on without some sort of way to reduce it down to a series of squiggly lines on a graph. So that's always cool to be able to do that. So I'm definitely going to be talking to them about that. But I say this about almost every other project now. I'd say, oh, Zip should be using this. Oh, Zip should be using that. And then it never goes anywhere because I haven't played with it, so I can't possibly do that. Okay, so what's coming up on the short list? I've got my roadmap too, just like everybody else does. Next week, we're going to have Lisk, which, speaking of JavaScript, is a JavaScript-based sidechain and blockchain apps in the cloud, which is a way to reuse the technology that's used for Bitcoin, but use it for other sorts of protected documents, signed documents, things like that. Aurelia is the JavaScript reactive framework. Reactive frameworks are built so that they can do live HTML changes based on values that are changing their object values. And that's actually originally started, from what I understand, from a former Angular guy who was sort of distraught a little bit at where Angular was going. It wasn't going fast enough for him. Following that is Koha ILS. That's a library information system. It turns out there's about 15 of these, I found out. I was actually talking last night with a couple of people who are heavily into using Koha and a bunch of other things just here at the Perl conference, which is pretty amazing. LucidWorks, searching your own data, being able to do active searching and return back values. Karina, which is an easy-to-use, instant-on, native container environment coming up to us from Rackspace. We've got somebody coming up whose name I don't know yet from Capital One. Turns out they have this, they're going to do a series of open source projects. The first one they've got coming out is Hygeia, which is a monitoring dashboard. Where have we heard that sort of stuff before? Cluster HQ projects. I don't know which we're going to focus on, but the cluster projects for Cluster HQ includes Flocker, Dvol, Elliot, Machinist, and PowerStrip. So if any of those sound familiar to you, we're going to be talking about that in about 6 weeks. And then finally, rounding up the list that we have booked so far is Linux Presentation Day, which apparently is a coordinated effort in many, many cities all over Europe, where they're going to basically spend a day getting people, off Windows onto Linux, things like that. So Install Fest and stuff happening all over the European area. And to look for these names and more, you go to the homepage for this show, which is twit.tv/floss. And from there, you'll find the link to the big spreadsheet, as I like to call it. I could always use more guests, though. We're about midway through Q3, but I could always use more guests. So the way to do that, of course, is to talk to the project leader, coordinator, community coordinator, whatever, and tell them you really like listening to Floss Weekly, and thank you for all the audience members out there that are actually listening to us on an ongoing basis. And then you have them email me, merlin@stonehenge.com, and even if you forget that address, it's written right on the homepage. We live stream most of the time at 9:30 a.m. Pacific times on Tuesdays, which it is right now, except for me it's 12:30 because I'm on the east, or 1:30. I'm going on the East Coast. And you can follow us at at live.twit.tv. You can follow us at Floss Weekly on Google Plus, where I make announcements as I book each guest, and usually a pre-announcement just before I do the show. You can also follow Floss Weekly at Twitter, because that is always posted over there as a link over there. You can follow me at Randall L. Schwartz on Google Plus. That's where I post most of my primary content. But that also tweets over to Merlin, Merlyn, if you just want to use Twitter. I am currently at YAPC NA, which is a Perl conference in Orlando, wonderful, hot Orlando. But next week, or is it 2 weeks? No, one of the two, I'll be in San Francisco for a few days at the Red Hat Summit. And there's already much more that I can possibly ever cover, and I'm hoping to get at least 3 or 4 guests out of that show, which is the reason I'm spending my time going there. And then shortly after that, like within a week or so, I'm going to Texas Linux Fest back in Austin. This time, hopefully, with less mistakes with a cane. That was a really bad problem from before. I had announced a few times that I was going to FISLE, the big conference in Porto Alegre, Brazil, but because of the Zika situation, I don't want to be a vector for Zika. And since I travel around a lot, if I was a carrier, that would be really, really, really bad. I will, though, be in Hotlanta on not Memorial Day, Labor Day weekend. Sorry, there we go. And that's for Dragon Con, the giant 50,000 attendee science fiction, fantasy, and everything else. There's like 30 tracks. It's pretty amazing. So I'll be on all those too as well. Do you have anything you want to plug, Jonathan?
I don't. I've got things baking, but they are not ready to tell everybody about yet. So hopefully one of these days we'll have some announcements to make.
Cool. Well, we still got a couple minutes. Do you want to tell me how your first day went?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Definitely a lot of things going on behind the scenes, a lot of communications and things that take a little bit of extra mental work to stay on top of, but it was good. I think it went very well.
It's a little like juggling, but like I said, I'm not going to juggle today because it'd mess up my video stream. So there we go. Well, you did great. You did absolutely great. I'm sure to invite you back to a future show, so I'll add you to the rotating list, and you have passed your audition. So congratulations.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Cool. And I guess I better let this go. And we'll see you all again next week on FLOSS Weekly.